welcome back to the Accommodation Show. Today I'm excited as I'm joined by Michael Sjogren, who is the host of the Term Rental Secrets podcast. He's also an entrepreneur that's been in property for a long time. He's got 43 listings. He's got 2 boutique hotels. He's across 4 different states. He's all over the place. He's an awesome guy and going to provide lots of value today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot. So I think that the best way to start this off is for you to introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are, what you're about, and kind of what you do.
Sure. So I am based out of Boston, Massachusetts. I got into this kind of like a lot of people. I kind of stumbled across it. So I was working as an accountant for a long time, a little over 10 years. And had the quote unquote safe job, the, nice family, nice house, couple cars, whatever. And when my son was born, he was born with a rare lung disease. And we spent a lot of time at the hospital. And at one point we'd been there over 3 weeks. And I realized I was out of vacation time. I was out of sick time. I had all these hospital bills piling up. And I had to leave my wife and my son in the hospital to go back to, my cubicle to trade time for money. And I told my wife that day, I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to find a way for us to build a business that gives us the income we want without trading our time for money. And within a year and a half of that date, I was out of my job. My wife was out of her job. I retired my mom all through this beautiful short-term rental, Airbnb, service accommodation business, whatever you want to call it. And it completely changed my life. So this was back in 2017. We got started with this business. It scaled very quickly. We did a hybrid model where I bought the first one and then I scaled it through the management model. And we ended up in 5 different states. We had 15 listings within about 15 months. And that was when I made the leap. And then we partnered on our first boutique hotel deal. And, that took it to a whole nother level. And now we're launching our second hotel in about a week. So that was like the 30-second bite-sized version of what's been going down the last few years. But I'm super passionate about talking about this stuff because it radically changed my life in a very short period of time.
Look, I never knew that about your story. I never knew that about your son. And I think the nice thing is that your motivation was really there to get into this industry. And then why did you choose accommodation as such? Why did you choose this particular industry?
I knew, I had been reading books for years about real estate investing. And in my head, I planned to buy traditional rentals, and just do 12-month leases. But when I was doing out the math, if I had to average, say, $200 a month from these rentals, I was going to need a lot of rental property to replace my income and my wife's income and reach financial freedom. But when I met a gentleman that was doing short-term rentals and he was showing me how he was making anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month on properties he didn't even own, it was like my mind was blown. And so I was a little skeptical at first. So I was like, show me your numbers. You're talking a big game. Let me see these numbers. And it all checked out. And so I was like, okay, this is the road that I want to go down. And I know a lot of people get into this because they love hospitality, and that's amazing. I honestly got into it because I wanted to reach financial freedom as quickly as humanly possible. And I wanted to build a business that could generate a lot of income, that I could produce systems and technology so that I wasn't trading time for money. Hospitality is a huge piece of it. But when you get to a certain scale, now I have amazing people that work for me that are so much better with guests than I could ever dream of being. And, that was kind of the beauty of scaling, where I can kind of focus on my lane and let those people focus on their lane of what they like to do and what I like to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess you've got those people in place because you'd have the appreciation of how important that side of the business actually is.
Oh, 100%. I mean, at the beginning, you're doing everything yourself. And so, you're handling guest issues or, getting properties set up and taking calls at whatever time. And then, you learn over time how to implement different technology and add people to your team and all these different things. So I'm glad I went the path that I did, because if I didn't learn all those things along the road, it'd be a lot harder to manage it now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, awesome. So we met on Clubhouse, which is a great platform for making connections, especially internationally. A lot of our listeners are based on the other side of the world, so we're a little bit upside down to you. What I love about talking to international guests is that we have so much in common, but we're so far apart. So, platforms like Airbnb are all over the world. Booking.com is all over the world. Channel managers are all over the world. Guest expectations are going to be relatively similar, but maybe a bit different. But the good thing is because we're so distant, we also run at different paces, regulations at different paces, technology, what's actually come out and is available, and how people are using it is changing all the time. So that's what I'm looking forward to today. And one of the things that is really what interested me about doing this particular podcast is you said, hey, but I'm really flat out. I barely have any time. I'm opening a new hotel. I said, wait, hold on a second. Aren't you in short-term rental? And you're like, no, I'm doing hotels as well. And I said, well, let's have a chat about that. And let's talk about how you might make that transition from going from short-term rental to a hotel. And then maybe after that, we can talk about the intricacies of what's different about it, about one and the other, and what other challenges you faced. But just tell me so you've got those 45 properties, and then all of a sudden it's a hotel, and that's a completely different kettle of fish, I assume.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, one of the gentlemen who I manage a property for him, he's a developer. So he found the first hotel that we did, and he brought it to me, and he was like, hey, Mike, like, we're doing well with the Airbnb thing. Like, would this work at scale with a commercial property, with a hotel? And I looked at the property and I said, yeah, absolutely. So this first one was a 13-room boutique hotel. So it's nothing huge, but it's 13 rooms. I should say 11 rooms and then 2 townhomes that are right behind it. So we have 13 total units there. But the model that we implement, it's a little bit different than a traditional bed and breakfast or an inn in that we don't have there's no check-in, there's no front desk that people have to go to get keys. So first off, we knew who we wanted to serve. So we were targeting a lot of call it younger, say anywhere from like 30 to 55 type of working professionals outside of Boston that wanted to get out of the city. This property is right on the beach. It's 45 minutes north of Boston. Amazing location. It's only one of 2 hotels that are on the water in this town. And so we implemented a lot of the same technology from the short-term rentals, from the Wi-Fi locks to the security cameras to the noise monitoring to all the different tools that we use, and just did it at scale and implemented it that way. Now, lesson learned on that property was when you have an old Victorian style home with a lot of internal hallways, it can be hard for guests to navigate themselves to the room, even if your directions are great. So I ended up having somebody on my team work out of the office from that hotel. So during the week we have somebody there, and then on the weekends we have somebody there from 9 to 5. It's not necessarily guest facing, but if there's any issues or any discrepancies or whatever, they can go and handle it on site. As we progressed, like with this next hotel, it's more of a motel style look to it. So what I mean by that is when you pull up, you've got 2 stories of rooms that is room 1, room 2, room 3. So it's really easy to find your room. So that property we're planning to run completely remote. For the first month, I'll have somebody there kind of working in an office. But after that, we're going to pull that back because it should run very smooth. But if you think of it, serviced accommodation, Airbnb, short-term rental, you're providing a place for somebody to stay. The systems that work there should also work just with a multi-unit building. You know, a lot of the rental arbitrage folks, they'll take a whole floor of an apartment. It's no different if you take on a boutique hotel, as long as you set the right expectations with the guests. So as long as they understand, hey, this is a self-check-in property. We've got all these amenities here and here. You can use whatever you want. Here's the schedule of different things, whatever. As long as those expectations are set up front, you're going to be fine. But if somebody shows up thinking they're going to a traditional hotel and there's nobody there, they're going to be like, what the heck is going on right now? Where am I?
So how do you build that expectation? How do you do that in a practical sense? And what's the trade-off as well in terms of the guest experience, where you don't have someone checking them in and making sure that they're okay and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we do it through a number of different ways. One is in listing descriptions or on our website, and then in all of our guest messaging that goes out, after they confirm their booking, everything kind of reiterates like this is a self-check-in property. We utilize this type of technology, but putting it in a way that's a benefit to a guest, not just like, oh, these guys are too cheap to have people on site. It's like, no, this is a benefit. Nobody wants to wait at a front desk to get a key. Like you can get there, go right to your room, code's the last 4 digits of your phone number, and boom, you're ready to go. And we give them digital guidebooks of everything, just like we would on a serviced accommodation. And I forgot your second question, so I apologize.
Is there a trade-off for the guest? So you kind of were alluding to that already, just saying, hey, through the communication, we already tell them that's a benefit to them. Do they pay a little bit less because they're not getting that personalized service?
No, we're actually the most expensive place in town. But we've also put the money in to renovate the property so it's the nicest looking property in town. So we've upped the level of the property and the different amenity spaces that we have, put all the money into that. And just as long as we set those expectations, we're fine. And we charge a premium because we're right on the beach. Everything's fully renovated. There's nothing else in the market that looks anything even close to it. So we put a lot of money into it up front on the renovation side, which, to put it in relative terms, before we bought it, it was pretty run down. It had been in this family for a couple generations. The person that took it over kind of let it kind of fade away and didn't keep up with anything. So they were charging anywhere from like $120 to $180 a night. Our average nightly rate right now in the summer is $422, I think we're at right now. So like we've drastically increased the revenue side of it, but we put a good amount of money into to fix it up, to make it look really nice and to still provide a good guest experience. So.
Yeah. So is there anything in terms of the guest experience you have to do above and beyond? So you've said, okay, we're going to renovate the place and make it look, terrific and make it stand out and provide that kind of product, which isn't the same as everybody else's. Are there any extras that you have to do? Like, for example, leave some extra chocolates on the pillows or, like little platters or hampers or anything like that to sort of just really make yourself stand out so that it kind of, so that people do feel that warm and fuzzy feeling when they come in and it's not just cold and just, I don't know if you've stayed in these kind of service apartments where you come in and you just feel like you've gone into a hospital or into an office and you're like, oh gosh, okay, cool, it's all right. But that warmth kind of goes, and in a lot of that kind of boutique hotels, you've got the smiling receptionist and then you go through and then you're kind of excited and that sort of thing. Is there anything that you do actively in the rooms to sort of bridge that gap to make sure that the guest is going to be, you're going to over deliver on their expectations?
So I think a lot of it went into the design of the property. So, we've been featured in some different magazines and things like that. So like the design is on the money, like it looks awesome. And then as far as like making it easy and convenient, like every room has a Keurig with a bunch of coffee and things like that. We have extra linens, extra pillows, extra towels, like an abundance of all that stuff. So people aren't going to run out. And if they do, we have supply closets that guests can use that we restock daily that has extra toiletry kits, extra coffee, extra linens, extra blankets. We have pack and plays for the little kids. We have 2 free beach chairs for every guest. So they don't have to pack their beach chairs. They can just grab our beach chairs and go down to the beach. We've got 4K TVs in every room, super high speed internet, like double the speed of any other property up there. So just trying to think through like what's important to guests. Like they're going to the beach, so we give them free parking. Parking is at a premium in this location, so we give them free parking. For perspective, we charge $35 a day for beach parking there, so parking is at a premium. And then we give them the 2 beach chairs. Now we just opened a bar last week, so we have a bar on the roof deck overlooking the ocean. So obviously I have staff for that now. So we've got a bar on site now, which has been great. That took a long time to get all that approved, but we finally got that done. But yeah, I mean, it's just thinking through like I
would be curious, and you're gonna challenge me on this, right? but I kind of feel, so would you agree that you're breaking a mold?
100%.
Right. Okay. So this is why this is fascinating, because to the audience that's listening, you're kind of getting a freebie here. So if you've ever worked for someone and they go and they make the mistakes and then you can learn from it, that's what you're getting from Michael right now. He's putting all the money in to experiment with this thing, which he says, it's working, it's going well. He's got a lot of learning, but there's going to be things that don't work as well. And I'm kind of curious as well whether once you have that bar staff, whether they will inadvertently become kind of the receptionist kind of role as well, because people will start asking them questions and start going, where's this? Where's that? Where can I go and do these different things? Do you think that's going to happen?
We've trained them to answer those questions if it does. So like, what's the access code for the club room lounge? And, where are some different things to do? So we hired local people that already know the area to work up there to bartend and bar back. But again, we do have somebody on site to address any other issues. It's just not a front desk. Like when you walk into the lobby, there's not really a lobby to go check into your room. But we do have somebody that works on site for that property. And again, that was part of that lesson learned. I was planning on having no one there and running it completely remote. And then I found some people are having a hard time getting to their rooms, or if there's random issues that come up. So that's why we had, weekday supervisor, weekend supervisor, and then we have an overnight answering service as well.
Look, this leads me to the next question, which is, do you know if anyone else is doing this kind of particular business model, or is it just you at this particular moment in terms of taking, and I want to be a bit more specific, taking boutique hotel and then kind of going hybrid is what I would say between that hotel and service department type model?
I know our buddy TJ just closed on a 13 unit. I don't know if it's a motel or an apartment complex that he's going to convert into like a boutique hotel. I think he just closed on that last week. And I think Kevin Reardon, who I also met through Clubhouse, he just opened up a place called, I want to give him kudos. I think it's called Shore House. It's in New Jersey. And I think, I haven't seen his whole model, but I'm pretty sure he's doing somewhat of a hybrid as well. But at the time, I didn't know anybody doing it, to be honest. I knew that the property itself was like such prime location. Like it's literally beachfront, and then it's a 4-minute walk to like the downtown area that looks like a Hallmark movie. It's like all the little shops, and like it's just a perfect location. So I don't know. I guess I just had the guts to go for it. And I had some awesome partners that, backed me and funded the deal, and they believed in it. And so, we took a chance, but it worked out. And we also closed on it February 10th of 2020, and then COVID hit like a month later. So people were definitely biting their nails a little bit, but it worked out.
Right. So you've got the other one, like we were talking just before we started, you said, hey, I'm just about to open this one up. So where are we at with this second one?
This one is almost ready to launch. My manager was just texting me saying that we've got our automated messages dialed in. He's got the guidebook dialed in. I've got a final punch list for the handyman. So my goal is to turn that one live by the end of this week and then start taking bookings next week. So
have you set up like all your checklists for every single part of the business in terms of opening it before you got in? Is there like a really regimented plan? Or is it kind of like, hey, shoot from the hip, let's go, let's just get it done, and then we'll create those guides and figure it out as we go? Where's that kind of balance at the moment?
I'm big on systems and process, but full transparency, this is only the second one I've done. So I try to take what I did with the first one, pull all that and a lot of that knowledge together, and then it's like, okay, these are the things we need to do, because I did find it is more involved to open a boutique hotel than a home, a short-term rental. Definitely more involved. So now it's trying to think of
your margin of error. Your margin of error is a lot smaller as well, right?
Yes. But now it's trying to think through, all right, I should have done this first this time instead of doing this first, right? Just trying to optimize it a bit more and dial in a lot of those processes. But thinking through again, like always starting with guest experience. So this one's a very different property. It's more of like an extended stay. So they're basically one bedroom and studio apartments that were run as a motel for a long time. Excuse me. So the guest avatar is a lot different at this property than it is at the beach place. So this one's a lot more like business travelers. We've got some hotel, hospitals nearby, some colleges and universities. So it's a lot more like business / like some type of event, not event, but like medical travel.
Conferences or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That type of traveler. So it's a totally different avatar. So again, trying to think through what do they need, and the price point's completely different. You know, it's between 120 to 200 bucks a night here, maybe more in the summer, compared to double that at the beach place. So it's not as high end, but the theme was like clean, comfortable, affordable. So we wanted to make it not feel like a motel. Like we wanted it to feel like welcoming, comfortable, and like budget friendly without going too cheap. Because I found like if you start going too cheap on properties, you just get people that stay and they don't care about your property. And I don't want any of that.
Yeah, look, and what I love is that you've just touched on something which is crucial, is the avatar part. And I'm not going to spend this episode taking people through what an avatar is, but the point of this is that it all starts with the avatar and looking at who your customer is. And you need to know who that customer is so that you don't confuse them, and then they don't book with you because they're like, oh, this isn't for me, or it's not appropriate for what I'm looking for, because you're selling a holiday or a leisure type accommodation, but they're there for business. It's a completely different set of needs that they actually have. So I do recommend looking at avatars. If you haven't, if you're in the audience, get onto it. There's so many people talking about it. Michael could help you with it. I can help you with it. Avatars are super crucial to set up any business, right? And even if you're in your business right now and you still don't know them, you have to sit down and figure these out, because it makes your life so much easier as well, right? In terms of what you're doing. So it's a good little segue to, and this will be, I think, the final bit of this episode. I would love to know about just the marketing and branding side. So we've talked about avatar, and then you've got the branding side, which I'm curious to know whether you kind of did that on your own or whether you got an external company to come in, and kind of how that part looked. And then the other part of it is how you're going to market with it. So OTAs, direct bookings, Instagram, all the rest of it. So those kind of two parts tie in together well. And I think that will be of huge value to a lot of people.
Yeah, sure. So I'm fortunate that my wife is actually an interior designer. Like, not just says she is, but she actually is one. So she's designed both of the properties. So the branding and the look of it, that's all her. I take zero credit for that. So she worked with the website developer directly to get that going. Since we haven't launched the second one yet, let me talk about the first one as far as like OTA versus direct, right? So that one right now, we're at about 71% direct bookings on that hotel, about 25% on booking.com, and then the rest is Airbnb. So it's the majority are direct bookings. And the way we did that was we got involved on the social media side. So taking a lot of progress pics, getting people excited, but then we got heavily involved in the local community. So like we joined the Chamber of Commerce, different business networking associations. We joined an innkeeper association. We met with all the local shop owners and all the business people and just got the word out about what we were doing and trying to cross promote each other's businesses. So like a lot of our posts on Instagram are also promoting like the other businesses in town, whether it's, a local shop or a restaurant or whatever it is. And it's just a lot of that cross promotional stuff. And then getting a lot of repeat guests.
I've got to ask this question, and I have to interrupt. Who's doing that work, by the way? Because I think that people get super overwhelmed. They're like, yeah, great, good idea, Michael. But who's going to do that? Who's going to spend all that time and that effort doing it? Because it takes a lot of work to do exactly what you just said. And for business owners like yourself, you've got to figure out where your priorities are. Are you doing it, or have you got a team doing it, or is it a bit of a split effort?
I don't do any of that stuff. So if you're new and you don't have the revenue, you might have to do a lot of it up front. So now I have somebody that does the social media, right? She actually worked at the property last year. So she knows the area. She loves the property, but she has a social media marketing business, and she did this part-time on the weekend. She was my weekend supervisor last year. So now I pay her, a little bit of money, and she does all of the social media posts. She blasts it out there. My wife does a lot of the copywriting for it. And as far as like the chamber stuff, like my operations manager and my wife were involved in a lot of that stuff, building a lot of those relationships. Obviously, when I go up there, I'm introducing myself to all the business owners and things like that, making those connections, but I'm not running point on the other marketing stuff because it's not my wheelhouse.
Gotcha. I'm not going to go any further. I think you've given so much of a blueprint for people to actually think about doing things in a different way. And I think that's the key driver for this particular episode is not, hey, go and replicate Michael's formula, but think of doing things in a different way. You can get lots of rewards. The direct booking thing is huge in terms of working with the local community. I talk about it a lot. It's the way that all the social media platforms are pushing us. They're saying that it's all about local. The search of, a hotel near me or a restaurant near me, all about local relationships, local. They love it. It fits in really well with the pandemic as well, because people can't travel beyond what's too far as well. People have to work together and stick together. So pay attention to that, is my recommendation. Michael, I don't have anything else to ask you today. I want to thank you for joining us, contributing, spending your time, which is, of course, super valuable with the community and getting in front of us. So thank you so much. Is there anything that we can do for you?
No, I mean, the thing that I always say on Clubhouse is like the best way that you can give back to myself and Bart is to use this information and go out and take action, and then send us a DM or a message and just be like, hey, thanks so much. Like, I implemented this thing and I got this result. Like, that's why we do this stuff, is to just kind of pass the baton. Right. And so that's the biggest thanks that I get from people. And that's what I love doing. So.
That's amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think those are some really great words. And I think that really does mean a lot to us. If you are doing well, if you are having success with any of this stuff, come and let us know. Send us a DM, send us a message, subscribe, give it a like. That sort of stuff keeps us going. It enables us to keep and doing what we do. Don't forget that you can find Michael through his podcast, which is the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast. So make sure you check that out. Give it a listen. There's some really valuable stuff on there. Hit him up on Instagram as well. We'll have all the links in the show notes. So look, once again, Michael, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a really good day. Get some rest. And we'll speak again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.